Hello, I'm Judson. I'm the creator of Deep Regrets, and I'm going to teach you to play it. Deep Regrets is a game for 1 to 5 players aged 16 and up, lasting about 30 minutes per player, where you'll spend a week at sea reeling progressively more horrifying things out of the briny deep, and then taking them back to port to either sell or mount for scoring multipliers, all while managing your madness. I have not set it up yet. Let's do that really quickly. Okay, seaboard goes in the middle, portboard goes over here, madness tracker goes nearby, find the depth 1 fish, shuffle those up, deal them into piles of 13 at depth 1, then do the same for 2 and 3, pop the dinks up top, 10 regrets per player right here, rod, reels, and supplies form the market, and the 3 special components sit nearby. Place all the tackle dice in the bag, put it nearby, grab the day tracker and place it on Monday. Each player selects a player board and a side, they're all functionally identical, pop their madness cubes to the top of the track, their boats at depth 1, and their fish buck trackers on 0. Each player then takes their player dice, rolls them, and places them in their fresh pool. The player who rolled the highest takes the life preserver and throws it to a player they feel is in need. The player who had the most regrettable day takes the first player marker, and then each player is dealt a lifeboat, a can of worms, and 2 reference cards. And setup is complete. Okay, alright. Now we're ready to play. The game is played over the course of 6 days. You can alternately start on Tuesday to play a slightly shorter 5-day week. Each day is divided into 4 phases. Start, refresh, declaration, and actions. These are handily listed right here on the port board under the week, or inside of your Angler's Guide to Fishing. Skip it on the first day, but in the start phase, move the day tracker up, discard any fish that remain revealed at sea, give the first player to the next player clockwise, and all players reel in by moving their boat up 1 depth. Then it's on to the refresh phase. During the refresh phase, players will take all dice from their spent pool, plus any that they would like from their fresh pool, and they could cherry pick the ones that stand to have a better value, for example. They will roll all of them then, and they will place them back into their fresh pool up to their max allowed dice, as indicated on the madness tracker. Any spares will be placed into the spent pool for use on following days. They then count up the value of all of the dice they've rolled, and whoever has the highest total gets to take the life preserver and throw it to another player of their choice, who they feel is deserving. That player will get to use the life preserver as a discount of 2 off of catching a fish or visiting a shop at port. Then it's on to the declaration phase. During the declaration phase, players are deciding where they're going to spend the day and what equipment they're going to take with them. They do this starting with the first player and going clockwise by picking up their boat meeple and popping it in the correct location. If returning to sea, they will always start at depth 1. If they have more than 1 rod or reel, they need to choose 1 of each to equip for the entire day. They'll place that on top of the stack, tuck it into the appropriate spot, and it will remain equipped for the entire day. They will have an opportunity to change the equipment that they want to use at the start of the next day. Now it's onto the meat of the game, the action phase, where the action takes place. During the action phase, players are going to take turns taking a single action on their turn, starting with the first player and going clockwise until all players have passed, at which point the day ends and it proceeds to the next day. The actions that players can take on their turn depend on where they're located. So at sea, there's only 2 things you can do. One is fishing, that's the big one, and the other one is abandoning ship, which you can only do once per game. At port, there's 3 actions you can take. You can sell fish, you can mount fish for scoring multipliers, or you can visit one of the 4 shops at port, knowing that you can only visit each shop once per day. Once a player can take no more actions or strategically chooses not to take an action, they must pass. It's helpful to lay their boat meeple on its side to indicate that they've passed. A passed player can take no more actions or free actions until the following day, and they're skipped in the turn order. They get passing rewards immediately when they pass. This is in the form of either drawing a single dink or discarding a card at random from their regrets. Then, every turn that they are skipped again in the turn order, they get to take passing rewards again, so either drawing another dink or discarding another regret at random. Once a single player remains, that player may take only 2 remaining actions. And if they take an action, every player is skipped again to get back to their turn, so they all get passing rewards. Once the player has finished their final action, the day ends immediately, they don't get passing rewards, nobody gets any more passing rewards, and play proceeds to the next day. That's how the days go, and now it's time to learn to fish. But to learn to fish, we need to learn about fish first, right? Gotta learn about the anatomy of these suckers. And I'm putting some big air quotes around the word fish there because some of these things are absolutely not fish. That's a foot. So, join me down at the table and let's take a closer look. Here's an example of 3 fish. In the upper right-hand corner is the difficulty. That's what it costs to catch them in dice. In the upper left-hand corner is their value. That's what they sell for or what their point value is at the end of the game. There are fair fish and there are foul fish. Fair fish have a blue border and say the word fair. Foul fish have a green border and say the word foul. Foul or abominations and fair fish actually exist. This anchor icon below the value indicates that if I sell this fish, I have to draw a regret. There's also a reminder at the bottom of the card of the depth from which each fish was caught. The fish's name, size, and type is printed at the top, and any abilities are printed at the bottom. There are 4 ability types. The first is Reveal. That's the eye icon, and that's triggered immediately when the fish is revealed. There's the Eat ability, which is the mouth, and that's triggered by discarding the fish from your hand. The Catch ability is represented by a hook, and that triggers only after the fish is caught. And then finally, static abilities have no icon and are always in effect. If we flip them over and look at the back, each fish has a shadow on it. You should always pay close attention to the shadows on fish. There's 3 different sizes. Small shadows are contained mostly behind the numeral, medium shadows get close to the edges of the frame, and then large shadows extend beyond the frame on both sides. You should always check your angler's guide when deciding where to fish. This gives you a handy reference of the difficulty range of each shadow type. So a small at 0 to 2 at depth 1, whereas at depth 2, it's a 1 to 3. And a large at depth 3 is a 3 to 5. So you can always make an informed decision about where you decide to fish. Some fish lack the typical attributes. For example, this Amulet of Agartha does not have a value, meaning it cannot be sold or mounted. This colossal squid does not have a difficulty because it's caught automatically when revealed. It does have a value, which means it can still be sold or mounted. This humpback whale is lacking both attributes because it's revealed, triggers an ability, and then is immediately discarded. Some fish have this flip icon, which means you flip the fish coin and resolve its ability based on whether you flip heads or tails. You look like you get it. Let's learn to fish. Fishing is a single action with 4 steps. They are handily listed on this little player reference for you here, but they're cast, trigger, pay, and catch. The cast step is picking a shoal that you're going to throw your line into, and it can be at your depth or above. So these 2 boats can cast into any of these 3 shoals. At this depth, these 6 are available, and at the bottom, all 9 shoals are available for casting into. So let's say we've surveyed the options. We've decided we're going to cast our line right here. As part of the trigger step, you reveal the top card of the shoal for all players to see. It's a striped marlin. So now we move on to the trigger step. We're going to look and see if the fish has any reveal abilities. This one does. It has a little eyeball right there, which indicates that I get to discard a regret when I see it. Oh, thanks, striped marlin. Your majesty has inspired me, and it's not at random, so I'm going to get rid of this deep regret. I'll discard this right there. All right, now it's on to the pay step. So we need to look at the difficulty of the fish, which is printed right here, as we discussed, in the upper right-hand corner of the fish. This one costs 4. That's what I need to pay in dice in order to catch it. So if I look at my dice, I've got a 1, a 3, and a 2. I could spend the 2 and the 3, but then I lose 1 value because I have to spend entire dice. But what's wisest for me to do is to spend the 1 and the 3. I have then spent dice equal to or greater than the value of the fish. I then move on to the catch step. I pick it up, check to see if it has any catch abilities. Those would trigger immediately when I catch it, and then it goes into my hand. If it has catch abilities, those are triggered after it's already caught and are not a requirement to catch the fish. So some things like sharks might force you to discard a fish. That's not required to catch it, so if you don't have a fish that meets the requirements, you get off scot-free. Let's hypothetically say that I had revealed this striped marlin and I only had this single dice remaining. It's got a value of 2, the striped marlin costs 4, I can't afford it. I might have the life preserver that might help me get it, or I might have some dinks that I've drawn, or some equipment that helps me get there, but if there's no way for me to get this fish, I have to spend an entire dice, and I instead take a dink as a concession. These are little tiny fish that can help you in the future. Like this crab, for example, I can discard to reduce the difficulty of a fish by 2. That could help me catch a striped marlin on a future turn. If I'm unable to catch the fish, or strategically choose not to because I've got a massive stratagem I'm developing, the fish remains face up for all players, and another player could catch it on a subsequent turn. If you really want to land whoppers, you're going to have to start fishing deeper, and that means dropping sinkers. Dropping sinkers is a free action you can do up to twice on your turn to spend 1 entire dice to move your boat down 1 depth. And that dice can be any value, so make sure you're spending your lowest value dice. So if I want to go down to depth 3, I need to spend a second dice, move my boat all the way down there, and then suddenly the whole sea is my oyster. And this is where the really juicy stuff is. It's high risk. There's some weird stuff down there, but it's also high reward. The most valuable fish are all the way at the bottom. Each player has a can of worms they can use to mitigate their luck a bit. They can flip this to the opposite side to peek secretly at a single fish and decide if they want to put that fish back on the top or the bottom of the shoal. Regardless of what they decide, they don't need to reveal that fish. They can then fish anywhere they like. Some of these big fish can be really tricky to catch. Luckily, you have got a lot of tricks up your sleeve. Let's see what we can do. So, I have a single die left with this value of 1. That's a long way off of that 8 I need to pay for the Hollow Earth Infant. What have I got in my bag of tricks here? I got 2 dinks I've amassed from passing rewards. Each of those can be discarded to reduce the difficulty of a fish by 1. That's got it down to 6. Then I bought a bag of maggots at port. That discounts it by another 2. Then, at the start of the day, I equipped this Rod of Manconil. This makes all foul fish, which the Hollow Earth Infant is, cost 1 less. That means it's down to 3. I just need 2 more to catch it. If I had the Life Preserver, I could discard that. That would get me where I needed to be. Or I might have a fish in my hand that gets me there. This striped marlin that I caught earlier has an eat ability. Means I can discard it to increment a dice twice. That means I can roll it to a higher side 2 times. That would take it to 3. And when I eat it, I get to discard a regret for free. And now I have reduced its difficulty down to 3, and I have increased my dice to 3. I spin my dice, and I catch the Hollow Earth Infant when I only had 1 on my value of dice, and it cost 8. Anything can get you there. Unfortunately, this guy has a catch ability that says I discard the top 3 cards of every shoal, so he's going to start clearing out the ocean. But at least I'm coming home with one of the most valuable fish in the game. Okay, yeah, I feel like you got that. I feel like you're going to nail it. So let's talk about the only other action you can take at sea, which is abandoning ship. Each player starts with one of these lifeboats, which as an action once per game can be flipped to the opposite side to take your boat meeple and immediately pop it at port, which is awesome because it means the rest of the day you can take port actions, which means you can buy some supplies for the next day or mount some fish in a hurry, that sort of thing. But it comes with a major drawback in that it adds 10 to your total regret value at the end of the day. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, we got to talk about it. I've been putting it off. Admittedly, I've been putting it off, but it's time that we talked about regrets, like the ones I have here. The number of regrets cards you have is public knowledge and affects your standing on the Madness Tracker. There's also a hidden number on the back of each card between 0 and 3, and these are not revealed until the end of the game. Over the course of the game, various effects and abilities are going to cause you to draw and discard regret cards. When you discard a regret card, it just goes face down on top of the regrets discard pile. When you draw a regret card, it comes from the top of the deck. However, if the deck is ever empty, that's when things get a bit hairier. You instead have to draw from the top of the discard pile, which is inevitably the worst regrets people have discarded. If both piles are ever empty, you have to instead choose another player and take a regret at random from them. If multiple players have to draw regrets at the same time, that's done in player order, starting with the first player and going clockwise. Regrets will affect your standing on the Madness Tracker. The more regret cards you hold, the further you slip into madness. And here is the Madness Tracker. All players start at the top tier because they have 0 regret cards. Their fair fish are worth 2 more, their foul fish are worth 2 less, and they can have 4 dice in fresh at one time. As they gain regrets, they will shift their Madness Cube down tiers, affecting the different values. At my current tier, I can gain 2 more regrets with no effect, but the second I gain a 4th one, I need to shift my Madness Cube down to the 4 to 6 tier. Over the course of the game, you'll move up and down the Madness Tracker as you gain and lose regret cards. You should always be paying attention to your mental health, as it has massive impacts on end-of-game scoring. Let's take a look at how madness affects value. At the start of the game, this sockeye salmon is worth 3 for me, but if I go completely mad, it becomes worth 0. On the other hand, this benthic slug is worth 6 to me if I'm totally nuts, whereas if I am completely sane, it becomes worth only 2. Your sanity can also affect the number of dice you can have in fresh at one time. If I bought a dice at port, I would roll it and put it into fresh. If I bought a dice that wouldn't fit because of my max dice, it goes into spent instead and can move in on a future day. Over the course of the game, as I go more crazy, I can fit more and more dice into my fresh pool. If my max dice ever decreases, I don't have to move dice out of the fresh pool. I only need to check my madness when moving dice in. At the bottom tier, you're willing to steal and you get a discount on every shop at port. At the end of the game, all players will reveal the hidden values on the backs of their regrets cards, and they'll total them all up, adding 10 to that total if they flip their lifeboat. The player who has the highest total value of regrets is going to lose their most valuable mounted fish, which we'll talk about in end-of-game scoring. Whew, I am so glad we got that out of the way. Right, let's talk about port. The second you arrive at port, you place your boat meeple here and you get to do 3 things. 1, if you've used your can of worms, you get to refresh it. 2, you can choose to refresh any of your dice, and you don't have to refresh them all. So in this case, I'm going to keep that 3 because it's at max value, and I'm going to roll these 2 1s in the hopes of getting a better result. Hey, look at that, I rolled a 3. That's great. And keep in mind that I can roll those again at the start of the next day, so coming to port gives me 2 chances to bring the best dice back to my next fishing run. Then I can optionally choose to discard a regret card. In this case, I'm going to because I have 11, and that's a lot of regrets. So I'm going to take my highest value regret card and discard that. But I might not want to because strategically it might make sense for me to hang on to my regrets. Then there's 3 actions you can take at port. First one is selling fish. To sell fish, you take any number of fish from your hand all at once and sell them. When you sell fish, you look at their value, modified by your current standing on the Madness Tracker. So I'm playing as Ela. I am currently at the 10 to 12 tier of the Madness Tracker there because I have 10 regrets. That means that all foul fish are worth 1 more, and all fair fish are worth 1 less. So the Remora sells for 1, the Barracuda sells for 3, and the Mermaid sells for 5 for a total of 9. Then I take my fish buck tracker and I slide it all the way up to 9 there. Note that you can only have 10 maximum fish bucks at any one time, so if I sold in excess of that, the excess would be lost. Then, because I sold a foul fish, I have to draw a regret because I introduced a horror to society and I don't feel great about it. Then I take all the fish I sold and discard them to their depths graveyards. The next action you can take is mounting fish. So these are my keepers. I have 3 slots at the top of my board that have scoring multipliers on them, and I can tuck 1 fish into each slot. So I'm going to put this human right here. I'm going to put this goblin shark right here, and I'm going to put this Bathial Queen in my prize catch slot. At the end of the game, we determine the score for these using the good old order of operations. That means adding and subtracting the madness modifier first, and then applying the mount multiplier. So in the case of the Bathial Queen, it has a printed value of 7. It's up by 1 because of my madness for 8 times 3 for a total of 24 points. The final action you can take at port is shopping. You can visit one of the 4 shops, and you can only visit each shop once per day. When you visit a shop, you choose to pay either 1, 3, or 5 fish bucks. You might have dinks that reduce that cost a bit, like I could discard this tire to the bottom of the dink deck in order to make one of the shops cost 1 less. The dice shop is the most straightforward. If I pay 1, I get to draw 1 random dice out of this bag. If I pay 3, I get to draw 2, and if I pay 5, I get to draw 3. I then take all of the dice that I purchased, I roll them, and I put them into my fresh pool up to my max dice allowed. If any of them won't fit, they will sit and spent until subsequent days. The other 3 shops are a little bit more complex. If I pay 1, I just take the top card, goes in my hand. Simple enough. If I pay 3, however, I get to peek at the top 3 cards, and I get to choose one that I want to keep, and the rest go on the bottom of the pile. If it's a supply, I get to keep 2 instead. If I pay 5, I'm doing the same thing again. I'm drawing 5 cards this time, and I'm looking through them to select 2 that I'd like to keep. And those go into my hand, and the rest go on the bottom. If it's a supply, I get to keep 3 cards. And that is everything you need to know about making port. Okay, all done. Time to score it up. And the first thing we gotta look at is regrets. This game, Ela wound up with 6 regret cards, and Bert wound up with 5, but Bert flipped his lifeboat. So right off the bat, he's starting with a value of 10, and then he's got, a 0, another 0, a 1, and a 1. Not bad, a total of 13, whereas Ela has had a much rougher time of it. A 3, another one, there's 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, a total of 15. So Ela loses her most valuable fish. Bad luck. Sorry, Ela. Okay, let's score up these 2 players. They both have 3 mounted fish and have brought fish back in hand. Fraud gets a -2 to fair fish and a +2 to foul, and Bert gets a +1 to fair and printed value for foul. They will score mounted fish, fish in hand, and they'll get 1 point for every 2 remaining fish bucks. So here we've got 7 times 2 for 14, 5 times 3 for 15, and 6 times 2 for 12. And then these have a value of 5 and 8 accordingly, and he has no fish bucks remaining. Whereas Fraud down here has 9 times 2 for 18, 10 times 3 for 30, and 8 times 2 for 16, plus a few on the side, and he has 5 fish bucks remaining, which will get him 2 additional points for a total of 70. This means Fraud is our winner. And there you have it. That's the multiplayer mode wrapped up, and you know what that means. Time to talk about solo mode. Solo mode in Deep Regrets is a slightly different experience. It's a more cozy legacy-style game where you, as an intrepid ichthyologist, are attempting to capture and catalog every fish in the ocean over the course of dozens of games. As you catch the fish, You will be cataloging them on your handy ocean survey sheet. And once you have filled out the sheet completely, your expedition is a success. Each game you'll be using the value of fish that you successfully bring back to port to unlock equipment that can be used in all future games. Let's put the details of solo mode under the microscope. Find and remove all of these cards from the game. Then set up the seaboard just as you would in multiplayer. Find the Ocean Survey board, which is on the back of the Madness Tracker, and set it nearby. Day Tracker goes on Monday. Regrets go on the player board. Boat Meeple goes at Depth 1 at sea. Choose a player board, roll the dice, and pop them into Fresh. Grab a can of worms and the reference cards. Then grab an Ocean Survey sheet and a writing utensil. Check to see if you've unlocked any equipment. If you've got dice, roll them and put them in Fresh. If you've got equipment, equip them accordingly. And if you've got any items, set them nearby. And you're ready to go. Each day in solo mode is played in 2 phases, Refresh and Survey. During the Refresh phase, you take the Day Tracker and move it up. You re-roll all of your dice and place them into Fresh, including any tackle dice that you might have unlocked. If you've unlocked any equipment, you decide on 1 rod and 1 reel to equip for the entire day. Phase 2 is the Survey. You're going to spend the entire day fishing just as you would in multiplayer. You're trying to catch as many fish as you can, and you can even drop sinkers as you would in multiplayer to get access to deeper shoals. Each time I catch a fish, I need to document its details on my Ocean Survey sheet. In the case of this sarcastic fringe head, it's small and it's from depth 2, so I'll put its details in the correct location. So it is a fair fish. I will put that detail here. And then I'll write its name, sarcastic fringe head. It has a value of 3 and a difficulty of 2. This box here I'll leave unchecked until I'm able to successfully bring this fish back to port. There's a few differences in solo mode. You can't eat fish, so ignore eat abilities. Anything that requires you to flip the fish coin should be ignored, and anything that targets other players is also ignored. If an ability tells you to discard an item, instead flip it face down. The day ends once you've spent all your dice. You advance to the next day. Unlike multiplayer, any revealed fish stay revealed, and you do not reel your boat in. Once you make it all the way to Friday, the week ends, and it's time to report your findings. Here's all the fish I caught on this week of my expedition. It's not a bad haul, but I may not get to keep them all. The first thing I need to do is count up all of the regrets I gained this week. I've got a value of 6 in regrets here. I need to lose an equal value of fish. I could lose the Selkie here. That would cover the entire cost. Or I could lose the 3 here. The Selkie was harder to find because it's from depth 2, so I'm going to lose these 3. And that is my debt paid for regrets. The remaining 3 fish I get to bring back to port. That means I get to now check off the sarcastic fringe head. The remaining fish have a total value of 16, which I get to spend to unlock equipment for future games. I'm going to spend some of that on the mermaid eyes and some on the wooden brass reel, which I've now unlocked for all future solo games. The last thing to note is that some dinks are useless in solo mode, some discount fish just as in multiplayer, and some that give you fish bucks can be applied towards your total value for unlocking equipment. And with that, there's no more I can teach you. You can find some more details in your handy fishing guide, but I think you're ready to set sail. It's rough waters out there. I wish you the best of luck, and we will see you if you make it back.